Hello everybody, this is Sarah from My Homemade Wardrobe Patterns and Crafty Sew&So, and it's great to be with you today for this sew along. So I'm back after a little hiatus. I've been on a couple of holidays and we've also had some big projects going on in the studio. One of the big things that we've been working on is getting somebody in to use our space along with us, and we have lovely Lauren joining us in August, so that's going to make the studio even more busy and buzzing, which is really exciting. And another one of the projects that we've been working on is releasing our brand new ebook. So our Learn to Love Your Overlocker ebook was originally created to support our Learn to Love Your Overlocker 5-week course, which you can now buy as segments on our website. But the ebook is a fantastic introduction to overlocking. So we have a wonderful video course available, and to support and supplement that, we also have the ebook. If you're not a fan of video learning, or if you feel like you just want to top up your learning, then the ebook is a really, really great way to access that information as well. It's a really great reference guide. You'll find yourself grabbing it time and time again whenever you need to ask any questions about overlocking, and yeah, you'll find it to be really, really helpful. It also contains a huge array of different projects. I believe there's 5 in total, with variations, and you can use those as a kind of mini course to build your skills. So they all include different skill building techniques. So you can kind of almost tick them off your list as you sew projects, knowing that you've built up those skills and that you have something to show for it. So today, in today's sew along, I'm going to be making a waterproof drawstring bag. Now, the drawstring bag is a project that's the first in the ebook. It's a nice simple one to get you going, get you started, overlocking woven fabrics, which often people don't realise that you can do. But it's a really, really great way to get to grips with your overlocker and get a good feel about how it works. So woven fabrics are a really good place to start, even though an overlocker is often thought of for use on jersey fabrics and stretch fabrics, but it can work equally well to finish off the edges of woven fabrics, but also to make smaller items, craft items and things like that. I wouldn't recommend it for sewing together fabric for making garments, so sewing the seams of garments, just because it isn't as strong and resilient as sewing a regular line of sewing stitches on a sewing machine and then finishing off the edges. So garments are obviously washed and worn, stretched over the body a lot more than craft items. So that's why we wouldn't recommend it for putting together a whole garment. But for craft items like the one that I'm going to make today, and items that you need to make a lot of very, very quickly, it's absolutely ideal because it's such a fast machine. So the reason that I am making some waterproof drawstring bags today, I'm afraid it's not a glamorous one. It's not because I'm going on all these trips to far off, far-flung, warm destinations by a pool, and I'm going to need waterproof wet bags to carry my glamorous gold spangly bikini to and from. Unfortunately, it's for a much more practical use, and my daughter is currently potty training, and bless her, she's doing so well, she really is, but she does have a fair few accidents, and nursery are tearing their hair out saying, give me some more wet bags, we need them. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to use some fabric that I'd already got, and a project that is really, really fast to make up a couple and make everybody very happy and dry. So I've got some fabric here, which is a kind of coated cotton. So I got this from the Knitting and Stitching show a couple of years ago, actually. And it's basically just a cotton fabric that's then had a layer of PVC added to it. And often this is, or PU I should say, polyurethane. Often this technique is applied to jersey fabrics, and then those fabrics can be used for making waterproof reusable nappies. So when I saw this applied to woven fabric, I thought that's brilliant. I made Edith a little coat out of it when she was 1, but unfortunately she's grown out of that now. But I did have a half meter, just under a half meter left of it. So I'm going to make these wash bags. And yes, that will be a nice little project. So as I said, this is a project from the ebook. I'm just going to go and grab the instructions, and then we can run through what you're going to need for this project. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. So the great thing about the ebook is, as and when you want to do a project, you can just print out the instructions, and then you can add your own annotations. You can add anything that you want, your notes, different dimensions, yeah, it's a great way to use the book. Of course, you can use it on a Kindle, or you can use it on your laptop, or even on your phone. It's been formatted so that you can view it on all different devices. But I particularly like to print out my projects just to really have them to hand, and then I can have them up there when I'm sewing. So this is the ebook printed out. I've just printed it to A5. Sorry, 2 A5s on a sheet. So we've basically got the instructions here. There is another page which goes with it, which will tell you about all the things that you need for the project. But seeing as I'm making this to different dimensions today, I will give you the dimensions, but you can make this any size that you want. So I'm not going to refer to that page today, but yeah, you've got the full instructions with colour photos as you go, and we'll work through those as we go. So the fabric pieces that I've cut today, I've that the right way up and make sure that you do sew it. I'll try and make sure that I sew it the right way. So I've got a piece which measures 43 centimetres wide by 30 centimetres tall. So that's 43 centimetres across by 30 centimetres up and down, so tall. I'm then going to take that piece and I'm going to fold it in half. And here's one I prepared earlier. And then I've just popped a couple of clips. You don't need loads of clips, to be honest. I'm going to put one more. Wonder clips are ideal for this because you don't really want to be putting holes in this fabric. You're trying to make a waterproof bag, and any holes will create, possibility of some water leaking through. So just put a few clips on to hold everything in place. Okay, so that's my one piece, 43 by 30 centimetres. And then I have cut another piece, which is 45 centimetres by, I think, about 10 centimetres. So it just needs to be wide enough so that when you fold it and you hem it, you've still got plenty of space to get your drawstring through. So the first thing that we would do with that piece is to fold down the edges to hem them, and that's why we've left the 1 centimetre more than the size of the larger rectangle. So this was 45 centimetres and the larger rectangle was 43 centimetres. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to just put focus on the overlocker. Now, I haven't done anything particularly different to the overlocker to set it up for sewing this slightly different fabric. So the waterproof fabric, it should just sew like normal fabric, but I have run some fabric through beforehand just to test run and see that the stitch settings are fine. So, and of course that's what you should always do, and is reiterated in our book and on our Introduction to Overlocking course. Always run some fabric through the machine to do a test beforehand. So having done that, I'm going to overlock the edges. So I'm going to overlock all the way down this long edge. And then when I get to the corner here, I'm going to come off, and then I'm going to start overlocking again. So what I'm going to do with this first one that I do is I'll do that technique, and then I'll show you a way of going around the corner, and I'll show you the difference. It's one of those things that you can never really get to look really, really neat, but it is pretty secure. So I'll show you the two ways, and then you can decide which one you prefer. Okay. Now the fabric is a little bit sticky, so I do need to give it a little bit of a nudge. What I can do if I find that it's really not going through the machine is to decrease the pressure of the presser foot. I found that it wasn't sticking too much before, so that's fine. But if your fabric was, if you were sewing on the waterproof side with the coating on, well, then you might find that you need to decrease the pressure. Okay, just put that underneath. And I'm just taking 1 centimetre seam allowance at this point. So I'm going to come off. Now on this machine, we have a little cutter up here, which is really useful. If your machine doesn't have a cutter, what you can do is you can swing this chain underneath the foot and just use the knife to cut it off. There we go, like that. And then I'm going to start again, going down this side. Okay, and as you can see, in no time at all, we've already got what's looking like the start of a bag, which is wonderful. Right, so I'm going to show you the other method for turning a corner. Now, our ebook contains very close-up photos, same with our online course, very close-up photos of all of these techniques. And it's great because you can keep referring back to them. So, you know, you can keep taking a closer look and just seeing that what you're doing is matching the book photos or the video course as well. So that's just really reassuring. If you're one of those people like me where you just want to know that you're definitely doing things right. Okay, so I'm just going to sew right down to the end, and then when I get to the end, I'm just going to use my hand wheel to kind of do the last couple of stitches and bring the needles out of the machine. I'm then going to lift up my fabric, and there's a little kind of pointy bit at the back just underneath the upper looper, and that's called your stitching finger. Now you just need to take the threads just off that, stitches just off the stitching finger, and kind of bring the fabric back to just so that the needles are just on the edge of the fabric again. So just need to go a tiny bit further, and then I'm just manually with my wheel, my hand wheel, just bringing the needles back into the fabric, carrying the sewing. So there you can see that's the kind of effect that you can create. There's a tiny bit of looping at the back. You're always going to get that, unfortunately, because you are pulling those stitches off the stitching finger. But I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's looking pretty good. Nice and strong, nice and secure. What I could do with these ends is I could get a needle and I could thread them through, or I could just split them off and tie them, which I think I'm going to do because it's a wet bag for nursery. Nobody's going to see the inside. Well, people will see the inside, but they won't judge me, I don't think. So yeah, that's two different ways to finish off your corners. So the next thing we're going to do is take one of these long strips, and I'm making 2 bags here, by the way, just in case it's getting confusing. I'm making 2 in one because I always think, you know, when it's a simple project like this and you need lots of them, why not batch them? So I'm just going to turn in the seam allowance on this strip. And because this fabric is coated, I don't need to iron it or anything like that. It literally just finger pressing it using my nails. It also doesn't stretch at all, so it's really stable. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, what I just need to check is my length. That's fine. Because what I want is for these ends to match up, but not to overlap. Because if you overlap, it kind of makes it a bit awkward, a bit fussy. So that should do. So I've just turned over my pen there. Beautiful. And I'm going to fold my piece in half and just find that centre. You can either just press a crease in it, or if you want to be more accurate, you can get your scissors and have a little snip. Just make sure that all lines up. And then I'm going to turn one of my bags the right way out. Because you've got tiny little seams here, you don't need to worry about like snipping to the corners or anything like that. But you might want to get a chopstick or a blunt long stick of some kind. Please, not your scissors. Don't use your scissors or an unpicker or anything really pointy. I don't want you going through your corners. Yeah, just use something to poke out those corners. To be honest, they've come out quite nicely. You might give them another little poke later. Right. So what I'm going to do next, I've got this piece here with the folded ends. I'm going to fold that in half. So that has gone nicely in half, and I'm going to match those notches that I created. So I've got my little notches there. Put a clip on those to definitely make sure they stay together. And some clips on either end just to make sure it all definitely stays in the right places. And then on the edge opposite the seamed edge, so you've got a folded edge here, seamed edge here, folded edge, I'm just going to line up the start of my channel. I'm just lining that up just there. And put a clip on. The reason I don't do it over here is because you've got a point of weakness where you've got a seam, and to make sure that the bag is really robust and strong, it's a good idea to take the channel around and cover over and stitch over that that seam. Just makes it really, really strong. And yeah, like I said, these are going to be going through the wash quite a bit, so it's great. And then the bit where I've just marked my notches, just there, that's going to line up with my seam, which is fab. And then just taking the whole thing round again. And if you find that your seam allowance is a little bit, I think I've taken a bit too much seam allowance there, so I'm just going to adjust it. You can still do that at this point, so it's all very malleable, this project. The only thing, like I said, is you can't really stretch this fabric, so your sizes have got to be kind of similar, really. It's got to be the same. So just at that point, I've got my, it's looking very dark all of a sudden, sorry about that. See if I can make it a little lighter. Okay. So we've got the two ends just there, overlapping, one there, one there. Take that out because it makes it easier. So yeah, there's those two ends, and I'm actually going to start stitching from about here. Now, the temptation is to start stitching around here, but again, if we think about areas of weakness, so wherever you've got a seam, wherever you've got a join, wherever you've got something that can move, then that's a point of weakness in the item. So if you start stitching at a point where it's lots more secure, and there's nothing else kind of getting in the way, then you'll end up with a stronger finish overall. Okay, now some machines have a handy little thing that box that comes off. This machine doesn't have a box that comes off, but you can swing open the little cover. So I'm going to do that. Oh no, I'm not actually. No, on this machine we can't do that. On the brother machines, the overlockers, which are a very popular machine, you can. But on these, you can't create a free arm on the Janome overlockers. But that's okay. What we'll do is we'll put the fabric in this way instead. What it means is just means that you can't see quite as much as a viewer. But like I said, close-up photos of every single step of this process are in the ebook. So it's very helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to start overlocking, go all the way around, and then when I come back on myself, I'm going to overlock over the stitches that I've already created. Now, if you're nervous about doing that, cutting off stitches, then again, we do have some great information about how to remove the knife. And yeah, that's really, really helpful. And that's all in the ebook with close-up photos. Okay, so I'm just coming back around on myself now, just making sure as I get excited about the end getting close that nothing slides out of place, which can happen quite easily. Now on your machine, you'll find you've got some little markings on the needle plate. And those markings will tell you where the knife is going to cut and where the stitch is going to be created. So take some time to look at those and work out where everything lines up, because you'll find them really, really helpful for things like this, where you're coming back round on yourself and you don't want to cut into your stitches. If I look like I'm concentrating hard, that's what I'm concentrating on. So I'm just going to lift up the foot when I get to the end, lift up the needles, turn my fabric out the way, and I'm just going to stitch off. Because of course, with overlocking, you never want to just cut close to the needles. You always want to keep a chain running out of the machine. Okay, so I'd probably choose to just thread that back in to the stitches with a needle, just because it's quite close to the top and it's going to receive quite a bit of like abrasion as hands put in and out as well. The ones in the bottom aren't going to get kind of worn, touched as much, so they don't need to be threaded back in. But there we go. There is your little drawstring bag with your little channel. And I'm just going to thread some ribbon, or probably cotton tape actually, or a shoelace. An old shoelace would be ideal, so I think I'll probably use that, because I really want to make these as kind of sustainable as possible, using up all my other bits and pieces that I've got. So I'll thread my shoelace through there, and then all her clothes can go in there, and then the whole thing can just go in the wash. So I don't even need to take things out. I can if I want, just empty them out. And because it's quite sturdy, I think I won't need to touch them too much. That's the thing with a plastic bag or a or a fabric bag, because they're not sturdy. It's quite, you often have to like put your hand in, and yeah, I'm not afraid of anything like that, but it's just not the most pleasant experience. And then you can just shove the whole thing, unlike a plastic bag, you can just shove the whole wet bag in the wash as well, ready for next time. So there you go. That was a really quick and simple make. You can find that and all of the projects in our ebook. We'll be running through a few over the next few weeks and months. But yeah, as I said, it's all laid out in very, very simple, very close, very detailed photos to help you do every step. So you can make your own drawstring bags, and I have made these for Christmas presents. I've made them for toy tidy bags. I've made them for sorting out Edith's socks, which she has 20,000 of. I need to make some for sorting out my socks. I've got one for my pants, but not my socks. I actually made one where I appliqued a little pair of pants on the front, and then I used that to put all my pants in. Yeah, it's a nice thing to look at every day, which you do have to look at it every day. So yeah, I'd love to know what you're going to use your drawstring bags for. Maybe set yourself a challenge and see how many you can make in an hour. And I'd love to see how you get on with that. So yeah, I hope you really enjoy making your drawstring bags, and I'll catch you again soon on another sew along. For now, happy sewing. Bye.